All right. Hello, everyone who is with us. Welcome back to the Patton College Summer PD series. Today we're going to be talking about creating engaging lectures with technology. We have Larry Hess with us. He's one of the instructional designers with OII who primarily serves the College of Business. And we are ready to get going, Larry.
All right, hopefully everyone can see me, hear me, and see my screen being shared. Jody just stole my entire intro. So like Jody said, my name is Larry Hess. I'm an instructional designer, primarily serve the college business, and I work on graduate programs there. So it looks like Paula McMurray Schwartz is asking to control of my screen. I'm not going to allow that. I'm just going to go ahead with the presentation here. And for bandwidth purposes, since we're all online here and there could be a lot of people, I'm going to turn off my camera for a while. I will be coming back during discussion points, but to get started, I want everyone to go ahead and click on this form and give some answers there. So we're going to start with that Microsoft form and see what everyone thinks there. Jody, if you could monitor that. If you could monitor the form and let me know after we finish this second slide how the results were. All right. All right, here we go. So today we're going to be covering a lot of information. We're going to start with discussing tool options for different pedagogical approaches, some basic visual design principles, setting up an engaging presentation. We're going to be covering Mayer's 12 principles of multimedia learning. I'm going to go through a really quick PowerPoint demo that I've done and walk through how I did that. And then I'm going to share some resources and finally how you can contact us. So pedagogical approaches. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this slide, seeing as how this is the College of Education. And within the last 2 months, everyone in education has been tossing around different ideas on how to do this successfully. The main point here is that there are different options for online education, and with those options comes different tool sets to be considered for what you're going to do with the class. So as we go through this, just think about that. We're going to have some synchronous conversation, some asynchronous conversation, and possibly if you've selected to do a hybrid concept or thinking about how you can do that in the class, these tools will also cover some of that as well. So with asynchronous, the tool sets that we're going to be discussing today are PowerPoint with Microsoft Teams and Stream, which we're doing right now. What this is voiceover presentation with PowerPoint uploaded to Microsoft Stream to create a shareable, engaging video for learning. We're also going to be discussing VoiceThread, which is an online tool for enhancing engagement. You can also use that to present from as well. Panopto, we're going to discuss that briefly because I know you have a Panopto presentation during this workshop, but basically it's a software for recording, screencasting, streaming, and content management or hosting. And then TopHat as well. So one thing to note here is that TopHat Pro will be releasing soon, and it's got a feature for recording lectures, and it already allows you to push out assignments, homework assignments is what they call that, within TopHat, and there's all kinds of new features that come with that as well. So first, I want to talk about PowerPoint, Teams, and Stream. So that's what we're doing right now. We are recording this, so anyone that wants to view this after we're done, they can do that. but I've created this PowerPoint way before this meeting happened. I designed that. I wrote a bit of a script. Now we're inside of Teams meeting and I'm presenting this PowerPoint. We're also recording it. We have some chat options as well. You saw that I pushed out that form. Jody, can you check in on that form for me?
So Larry, I don't have access to the results.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll check in with all those at the end. I've got about 3 of those as we go through this presentation, and we'll see where everyone's at the end. So PowerPoint, Teams, and Stream, the reason I'm combining those all together is for the purpose of talking about an asynchronous delivery. So Teams is a team-based collaboration tool, provides group chat, channeled conversations, instant messaging, live document collaboration, audio or video calls, and meetings from one-to-one or one-to-many. You also do audio and video conferences as well. Teams can be used to stream and record lectures and then edit with interactivity elements like that Microsoft Forms that I released in the chat. The built-in capabilities of screen recording, video upload, voice over PowerPoint, and channels provides a variety of flexibility for curating various formats of lectures as well. So the way that Teams works when you record video is it uses an application called Stream. So that's also a Microsoft application. When you record in the Teams meeting interface, your video is automatically uploaded to Stream, and your video URL is shared with you in the chat log for that meeting after you're done. So another option for using Stream is to directly upload video files and allow Stream to host them. So you see on this, the interface screenshot that I've got here, I can be inside of Stream and just click create, upload video, and then choose an MP4 or a movie file or whatever, and upload that to that interface. And those are my dogs growling in the background. That's not me, so just to let you know. The benefit for using this option is that you can also turn on automated closed captions to meet accessibility standards. And all you need to do is share the URL with your intended audience. So once that is on Stream, you have the option to share that out with people just like you would a YouTube video or somewhere else that you get a URL and share that. You could share it inside of Blackboard, you could share it through email or what have you after you're done. Another cool Stream feature is the ability to insert forms during the editing process to make an interactivity exercise for students. So right now we're talking about an asynchronous presentation. So I could do this presentation by myself, record this, and then while I'm editing it in Stream, I could edit in these interactivity points where I put Microsoft Forms that I develop inside of there. So as the student plays back your presentation, those interactivity points come up during that playback. So it's pretty cool. The nice thing is the class doesn't all have to watch it at once like we're experiencing this live session right now. They can go out on their own, watch it when they can, and then do those interactivity points, and you get the feedback on your end after everyone goes through it. You can also make channels and groups on Stream to share content with the predetermined group of people as well. So if you set up a group or a channel, then as those videos populate, whether you upload them or create them in Microsoft Teams, those will all be listed for access with that group. And I can't see the chat or anything, Jody, so just keep an eye on that for me. Let me know if anyone has any questions during the presentation.
Absolutely. I'll keep
All
an
right.
eye on it. We're good for now.
Thank you. Okay, so VoiceThread. VoiceThread is an interactive program. It allows students to view visuals, comment, interact with others within that same venue. Discussions about a combination of media, documents, images, audio files, videos, and PowerPoint presentations. It allows you to do all of that inside of one place. The biggest benefit of VoiceThread creating presentations to engage is that they're two-way conversations. So you could put a video like this on there, or you could put audio over PowerPoint within VoiceThread, and then the students can chat on there. So if we were to take this presentation, put that online, you could insert a question at a specific point in time, and then I could come back and answer that. Another student could view that question and answer that. They have the option of typing, video, audio, or there is also a call-in feature as well that meets accessibility standards for those that can't do the others. So there are many video lecture presentation tools out there, but none really empower students to do a real discussion like VoiceThread does. Another option for VoiceThread, and the reason it's nice, is that during a presentation, you may stop at the end or have points in your presentation that you want students to answer. So in class, when there's 35 to 100 students sitting in front of you, you can stop and ask a question and people can raise their hands. You can do the same thing with VoiceThread in an asynchronous manner. So you're going to have a slide that comes up that may be a question during your presentation, and then students can then answer that like you would do in a normal classroom. And the nice thing is other students get to come back, play this back, and it's weird how it turns into almost like a synchronous presentation at that point once you play it back, because all of this stuff happens back to back, even though it might have taken place edited over a few days.
So Larry, we have a question in the chat. It said limitations with VoiceThread, accessibility, captioning, etc. Is there a way this can be improved?
So it meets all accessibility standards. The VoiceThread has been doing a lot of work to do auto captions for presentations and everything. I haven't seen lately where it's at with those improvements, but I know that OIT, which I'm not speaking for, but OIT does have a system in place where they review things and make sure it meets the minimum accessibility standards for classes.
And tomorrow morning at 10, we will have someone from OIT here to present on VoiceThread. So hopefully they'll be able to give you a bit more detail on that one as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jody. So there are different types of VoiceThread links within the course. You can set up a course view. This displays the VoiceThreads that have all been shared within your course. You've got a VT home that you can set up that just parks them inside of VoiceThread. And if none of this makes sense, you'll learn more about it tomorrow, hopefully. You can set up an individual VoiceThread that creates that direct link to any VoiceThread that you've created. And then there's an assignment builder that allows you to create a link for an assignment where you can do, you have the option to have a student create a VoiceThread on their own to submit. They can comment on a VoiceThread that you've created, or to simply watch a VoiceThread from start to finish. And it grades them on each of those. And when you set that up, that's when you set up all the points, the due dates, and that kind of thing as well. So jumping into VoiceThread examples, VoiceThread really can work for any type of class. I know we're talking about it for asynchronous right now, but you could do an icebreaker activity where the class introduces themselves to the rest of the class through a short story of images and narration. I've worked with a lot of faculty that use VoiceThread specifically for that, to replace what they used to do with discussion boards around that icebreaker introduction activity. They could even put up like a story of images of themselves, or they can, maybe they're not comfortable putting up images and they put up avatars of themselves or their favorite sports or whatever as an icebreaker activity. Their name, they're basically, you're trying to get their name, their interests, and goals for their education as they go through this. There is also the doodle tool that you'll see more about, but using the doodle tool allows you to write over images, slides, or videos. So if you like to mark up presentations, that is the tool for you. And just some more VoiceThread assignment ideas. I've seen lots of these working with different faculty throughout the years, but student presentations. They can also do demos, so maybe they do a screen recording and they upload it to VoiceThread and discuss what they liked, disliked about certain softwares or just websites or anything in general. Also storytelling, so they can use it to outline a story or pitch a small story. Reflections, so we do that a lot with papers, but VoiceThread allows you to pitch that in a video or audio format that allows you to reflect on an experience, and then have others watch and give feedback as well through that peer and content review. Portfolios, one nice idea here is that maybe you've got a photography class or some kind of design class, or even as educators, maybe you're teaching a kindergarten teacher class, someone who is a early education major and they're creating assignments for a kindergarten class. That could be part of their portfolio, and that's how they could present that to the rest of the class or to you for feedback as well. You can have whole group or individual voice threads. So I've seen this used for group presentations as well. That is a little more technical and requires a little more instruction for the students, but it can be done. And then we already discussed the introductions. Any questions about general questions about VoiceThread or some of those ideas that we just discussed?
Nothing in the chat popping up, Larry.
Okay. All right. I've learned over the last few months doing these presentations to embrace the silence and just let the awkwardness take over the presentation. Next, we're going to get into Panopto, and I know that you also have a demo coming on Panopto. I'm going to give you some of the thoughts and ideas behind why we might use that, and then if you're interested in learning more, you attend the presentation on Panopto and learn a little more about it. So I will say, what's that?
Larry, this is Karen Corcoran. On the VoiceThread and probably even Panopto as well, those are pieces that could be embedded into Blackboard. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Panopto does embedding a little more seamless than VoiceThread. VoiceThread, the reason we called them links is it really does literally create a link to the VoiceThread application, but you do have an option of, if you created a presentation within VoiceThread, there is an embed option as well, but the links is usually the way that you create the user experience, where they click that inside of Blackboard and then they go watch that outside of Blackboard.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and Panopto is similar where it's a standalone application outside of Blackboard that integrates into Blackboard. So both of these applications, you can go to the website and access things and build things outside of Blackboard, but you can also come back to Blackboard and integrate those there as well. And I'm not going to talk a ton about this. What Panopto does allow you to do is record presentations, share those within Blackboard. You can restrict users as well, so permissions on who you want to view this. It also allows you to upload and host media as well, and it does all kinds of different types of media. So if you're interested in doing a podcast, or you're interested in hosting some videos, maybe you have some copywritten video that needs to be behind a sign-in for access purposes, you can upload that to Panopto as well. I don't know that there's any limit on bandwidth or anything, or how much you can upload to Panopto. I've seen up to an hour and a half presentations uploaded to Panopto. The thing to think about here is that Panopto has a lot of different choices that can be hard to wrap your mind around the technical aspects of. But if you think about it as two different pieces, one being the ability to create presentations, and then the other being the ability to host media, that is a good way to get started on the separate technical aspects of Panopto. And then it's great for sharing things as well through the class. So the application can be used through a web interface or downloaded to your computer system. Those are both options for both Windows and Mac users. I will tell you that the interface is just a little bit different between the two operating systems, so you'll just have to get in and see those different nuances once you get started. And I'll stop right there because you're going to have a presentation on it. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder on that. Jody, did you say there's also going to be a TopHat presentation?
No, we don't have a TopHat one planned.
Okay.
I think there's one in the works, but not through this series of presentations.
Great. TopHat actually has a ton of support and videos online if you're interested in the technical aspects of this. But you can also request a OIT consult for a half hour on TopHat. But I'll tell you, out of the three that we've discussed so far, TopHat is probably the easiest to understand, but it doesn't necessarily replace everything we just discussed. So TopHat, it does have a lot of different options, and it has different options for different pedagogical approaches. So it depends on how you're teaching. When TopHat first started, they specifically started for the synchronous experience. So in class, face-to-face, and they started by allowing you to present in PowerPoint or from their web interface. So you would upload slides, and then you would start to add in interaction as well. Where they've came since then is that now you can assign homework. They've got open educational resources called the Marketplace. The web app allows you to, we're getting ready to get TopHat Pro, where you can build presentations, record audio with those presentations, and then assign that to students as well. The nice thing is if you decide you want to use TopHat for presentations, is that it it has a lot of things built into it. So you can assign homework, you can assign students to review things, and it does integrate into Blackboard's gradebook as well. The integration piece, as far as how the students get there and watch things, isn't as clean as VoiceThread or Blackboard, but it does integrate nicely into the Grade Center. So, but the user experience from a student standpoint is primarily going to be inside of this TopHat interface. So on their website, and I've got all of the links that I'm referencing here as well, but this updated website actually walks you through and helps you choose what modality and the uses that might work best for you when you're talking about synchronous or asynchronous options. And if you teach a class that's got labs or virtual office capabilities, like all, it talks about all that stuff. And TopHat is also releasing an interface for exams as well that uses like a digital review system when students take exams. That's in TopHat Pro as well. But if that link, that the link that's on the presentation also takes you to some of the options that are coming with TopHat Pro. And there's also a recorded workshop there on that page that also discusses some of those features that are coming. And Jody, do you remember the date? I know it was August, but I don't remember what the specific date was for TopHat Pro coming.
I think it's the 12th or the 15th.
Okay.
Soon.
So, yeah, it might be tomorrow.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'll look around and see if I can find that exact date for us.
All right. So some of you may also be looking for synchronous options, and the tools that we've discussed already, absolutely you can do that. So right now I'm giving this synchronous presentation through PowerPoint and Microsoft Teams. The nice thing about learning the tool sets that you're interested in is the ability to reuse them for different teaching strategies. So a synchronous class is a little different to manage, but the technology is similar when presenting. So if you learn how to create an engaging presentation inside of PowerPoint and then how to present that using Teams, you can pretty much do it in a live setting or a pre-recorded session. So you'll want to decide if you want to record the live session or not, what those live elements of engagement will be. Are you going to utilize forms or quizzes during the lecture? Will you have the students break out into groups? Will they leave the meeting to go research something and then come back and maybe they present something? By making all these decisions up front during the design of your presentation, you can build those engagement pieces to be intentional and identify when they might be served best for the students during your presentations. TopHat has always been considered that synchronous tool, but like I said, now they have so many options that it kind of goes both ways. You can do it asynchronous or synchronous. If you were to do this now, like I could bring up a TopHat slide and do a live poll, you can do a live quiz, and then maybe based on those quiz results, I stop this for a conversation. So those are all options to use TopHat inside of Microsoft Teams. So basically you would just build your presentation inside of TopHat, start to log into Teams, start to present, share your screen, and then you are utilizing that TopHat experience inside of a synchronous session over Teams. And that can be recorded as well. All right, so that is the list of some of the technology used. I'm going to open this here and make sure we don't have anyone in the chat. Seems I've lost my mouse. I'll depend on Jody here to let me know if there's any questions so far. And I know I'm
okay so far.
Okay.
There's a TopHat lecture today, but it's at 1, so it conflicts with Panopto. Thanks for posting that time. But the Panopto presentation, and I'm assuming the TopHat will be recorded, so you could always pick one and then hop into whichever you feel. And then I also got a response. TopHat Pro should be available today between 1 and 2 p.m. So you should be able to get in and test it out today.
All right. Thank you for that information.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to talk about some basic visual design of presentations because it's an important part of presenting learning media. So this is the basic contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. There's 2 acronyms here. I prefer CARP, but in the design field, it is often referred to as CRAP. So contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity, or contrast, alignment, repetition, proximity. Either way, it's really easy to remember, but I want to dive in a little bit to what these actually mean for your presentations. So number 1, contrast. That's the first basic design principle. It's the idea that different colors, shapes, and sizes will draw your reader's attention best. So to use contrast in your designs, you make sure to choose a color scheme that combines light and dark shades. You also use a variety of fonts for your title and captions to create visual contrast in your text. Too much contrast can become a distraction for your readers. So instead of using 15 different fonts, colors, and images that crowd out your central message, stick to 2 or 3 different design elements to keep your layout unified. Repetition, in contrast with the first basic principle of design, the second principle helps you create unity. The rule of repetition indicates that you should reuse some key themes in your design so that your readers can easily recognize and identify your content. For example, if you use red, white, and blue as the signature colors for some things inside of your presentation, you repeat the same colors throughout everything that you do so that it draws the viewer in. You can also utilize repetition with shapes and the fonts that you select. Next, alignment. That refers to the placement of all the design elements on a page. If you put the text at the top left corner of the page and then place something else like your logo or your header or something, an image in the center of the page with images scattered around the edges, your readers won't know where to look for specific information about your content that you're presenting. But if you carefully arrange the elements on the page so that all the images and text align with the same invisible line, you'll create a logical flow that is pleasing to the eye. So as a general rule, the edges of your images should all line up with the margins of your text. This principle generates clean lines and lots of white space that appeal to your readers visually. It really draws them in. And then the last one, proximity.
Oh, quick question, Larry. So we have a question in the chat that says, can you address contrast versus accessibility?
Well, I need to ask you, are they getting an accessibility presentation during the workshop?
No.
No. So that's a good point. One thing that contrast also allows is for people that have trouble viewing certain colors or tones, they having lots of contrast built in allows the reader to see the content better when they're viewing this. So colors that are similar are harder to read for those people. So also you need to consider the background and allowing those images to, or text to jump off the background. So if, for example, in this image, if my background was like in the center where it says principles of design, if that were a few shades lighter of gray, that could be very, very difficult for someone to read that has, well, for anyone to read, but specifically someone that has accessibility things where they just can't see that contrast, or maybe they're colorblind or something like that, and they need to have that contrast to jump off the page.
So as a follow-up, how concerned should we be about colorblind students not being able to distinguish red from green?
I guess it really depends on the content itself and how important those are. If it's really important to the content being red and green, and you're concerned about that, you could identify those colors as well. So, and if it has nothing to do with it, then you could just rely on the fact that they're going to be able to read it, and that there probably isn't a big difference between the same, I guess, shades of those colors. So if it was a dark red and a dark green, and that has nothing to do with the content itself, then go for it.
Yeah, and I think too, as long as, like Larry's saying, if you're using colors to call out specific elements, red and green as a contrast typically aren't best,
Right.
because some people have issues. But if it's just a color choice on a slide, it's less of an issue dependent on the shade. Also, update on TopHat. They read my question wrong, so they don't have a specific release date yet for TopHat Pro, but the training is today.
Thank you. And concerning that question about contrast, there are tools out there as well that you can download for free that allow you to judge the contrast of different things. So if you are concerned about things being the wrong shade or maybe difficult to read, I can follow up this presentation with a few of those tools, unless Jody has them handy, but they're things that you can download just to guide you in how easy or difficult these different colors are to read. So the last one is proximity. Like alignment, proximity teaches you to keep related images, paragraphs, and titles grouped together, but this arrangement won't just allow for more white space. It will also communicate the information of your content in the most concise way possible. When you place the most relevant images and words close to each other on the page, you send a visual signal to the reader that these elements have something in common. So that way your readers can quickly interpret the most important details of your content and then internalize that message. Notice that these 4 design elements, we didn't talk about your experience with Photoshop or Illustrator or PowerPoint or painting. These are just 4 basic principles of design that simply allow you to showcase your content in the most effective way. So now we're going to talk about what makes an engaging presentation. There's a lot of different factors when designing an engaging presentation, and we're going to go through a quick process for assisting in those to create the best presentation that you can. First, what is engaging? So we're looking to occupy, attract, or involve someone's attention, and that's from Oxford Languages. The first thing that we need to do when my manager reached out and said, "Hey, Larry, can you do this for the College of Education?" is I start planning. Creating a presentation for your online course is an exercise in developing a multimedia project. As with any production, you'll need to plan thoroughly to make it successful. Some things to consider in your planning are who your audience is, a careful consideration of the prior subject area knowledge of your students should be a big part of any course design. So if you can, try to know where they're coming from, what they've done, what courses they've had in the past. Have they gone through prerequisites? Can you bring some of that stuff up during your presentation? Use compelling, informal examples. So one thing you may do without realizing it in a face-to-face classroom is employ stories, anecdotes, other informal examples to help personalize that learning for the students. Another nice thing is to identify 3 to 5 key takeaways or objectives for each of the many presentations and allow the students to focus on those as you provide information in manageable chunks for them when they're going through the presentation. Next is narration performance. So providing narration for your virtual presentation allows you to clarify, guide, explicit, and emphasize content on the slides. So I've seen this done. Faculty sometimes put presentations, PowerPoint presentations, right into Blackboard. It's got the bullet points, it's got some pictures, and the student just clicks through that and is supposed to understand what they're looking at, what the content is, with no narration, no guidance from the faculty. The rule for a presentation still holds true online. The slides are there to support the presenter, not to replace the presenter. So easily digestible facts, bullet points, figures, images are all that should appear on the slide. They're the bones of your they're the bones, and your narration provides the meat and substance of the presentation. The narration is one of the carryovers from face-to-face teaching that you want to employ that in your course. After all, when you are not physically present, having an engaging spoken demeanor is more important than ever. So we've heard a lot of feedback from students from spring, and it was hard to get all these things online courses. They would say people just posted busy work, or they just posted PowerPoints, or they just posted this or that. We've got a real chance to go into fall and create some voiceover, some guidance, some engaging presentations. And I think that's why everyone's attending these workshops, is they're interested in making things better or more engaging. Also with narration and performances, to tell a story with your presentation and make connections with ideas that they already may know about. So if you can connect that to their life experiences or make it relevant to their future, the presentation is going to be a lot more engaging as well. Using that power of the medium that we're choosing. So a presentation conveys the visual portion of your message. It's not a vehicle for disseminating text. We talked about like all those bullet points, paragraphs shared in a PowerPoint. That's not what we want to do. If you want to hand out your lecture notes, use a text document. Do that in PDF. Maybe you want to share something via PDF, but your PowerPoint show should be a performance. We want to use this digital medium to create that in-class experience that we all do and love inside of a classroom. So we want to put that on for the students using images, charts, diagrams, animations, sound, video, and interactivity. We ask that you don't get carried away and make sure the media that you include is clear and easily interpretable. After all, they are intended to clarify and enhance your narration. Also, because of this digital medium, you can practice. So, and then practice some more and see how your outline flows and how does your script convey the content. Is there too much content, not enough? And a lot of times we tell faculty just to get in there and try it out. So if you're going to choose Teams to do this, you can log into Teams and record a little bit of your presentation, see how it goes. How do you like the camera? How do you like the lighting? How do you like how your voice sounds? Can you use a headset to create a better audio sound instead of just using your laptop mic? Is there a good place to put your notes that you're using? Are you writing a script, or are you just using an outline? All of this, using this digital medium to present, allows you to do that and create first draft, second draft, third draft as you move forward. And maybe you do your first presentation and you like it, and you're just going to build more off of the next one and the third one and the fourth one. Those are all options as well.
Hey, Larry, we have a question in the chat.
Okay.
When creating these voiceover or PowerPoint lectures for an asynchronous course, is there a rule of thumb governing length of lecture? I'm thinking of kids being on mobile and checking in on the course while they are sitting in the car, etc.
Yeah, when we talk about chunking content, 10 to 15 minutes is a good point to try to hit. And the way you do that is selecting those short 3 to 5 points that you're going to cover those and end it. It's much more digestible in small chunks. And I get a lot of faculty that are like, well, I don't really care about their attention span. I don't care about the technology. My presentation is an hour long and that's what it's going to be. And that's fine, but try to chunk that. Can you turn that into something that's 20 minutes so that the student can stop, come back, and watch the second part of the series so that it's manageable on their own time. But yeah, 10 to 15 minutes. I've done as small as 5-minute presentations with faculty to help them do that. And basically at 5 minutes, you're covering one thought. And then you're going to come in and do some activities during a synchronous session to discuss that after the fact. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So next up is Mayer's 12 Principles of Multimedia Learning. And we're going to go through these. We don't always do all of these. We might pick 3 or 4, but I think this is discussing how to really create a presentation that's engaging. It's based off of scientific research and the learning psychology of Richard Mayer's research. So done a lot of work on this. Some of you may have thought this was John Mayer's research, but that would be the guitar. This is Richard Mayer. We're going to cover these 12 basic principles, and I've also provided some examples. So we're going to go through visually as well so that you understand what these principles are talking about. So first up is the coherence principle. This states that humans learn best when extraneous or distracting material is not included. Simply said, cut out the extras, use only the information that the learner needs, and most often That means simple text, simple visuals that relate directly to the learning topic. Remove the fluff. So we're looking at this first slide. On all these examples, the correct one is in green. You can see on the right, there's some gears, there's a conveyor belt, there's a lot of text that's small. That's not adding to that slide much. We'd much rather see this in or hear this through audio and look at the visual that is the coherence principle. Next up is the signaling principle. So this states that humans learn best when they are shown exactly what to pay attention to on the screen. So if there's a ton of information on the screen, how is the learner supposed to know what is the most important part or what they're supposed to be looking at? Now, the two examples here, this is kind of calling out what they're supposed to be paying attention to. So it says the methodical and deliberate activity, and that's highlighted in that. That really draws your attention to that, and guided with audio behind that can be super successful to help someone understand what they're supposed to be paying attention to. Next up is the redundancy principle. This suggests that humans learn best with narration and graphics as opposed to narration, graphics, and text. So you can see in this example, all the text that's on the screen, you may want to read that while someone else is reading that, and I've got an example of this later on. But basically, if you can put a visual that identifies the topic and then allow someone to either to listen to you, or you can also place the text on the screen only without that image so that people can read it, because typically they're going to read a lot faster than what you can narrate. So if that's the point and that's what you want to do with the slide, you can definitely do that. Next is spatial contiguity principle. This is about the actual space in between your text and visuals on the screen. So stating that humans learn best when relevant text and visuals are physically close together. This is kind of a funny slide, the not this. So the 2 points are completely opposite of each other on the screen. You can see that the graphic and the text are close together. I've seen some examples of this in ways to identify parts of the human brain where they might say 1, 2, 3, 4 on the different parts of the brain, and then you have to read a key down at the bottom of the screen that shows what 1, 2, 3 identify with the terms of the brain. Super hard to go back and forth and learn that way. So if we just instead identify with an arrow with the term above that part of the brain, that's a lot easier to understand when those things are together, and you don't have to search all over the place on the slide to find out what you're supposed to be looking at. Next is temporal contiguity principle. This states that humans learn best when corresponding words and visuals are presented together instead of in consecutive order. Sorry. So basically what this slide is saying is use your audio while the visual is on the screen, not one before the other and playing before the other. I also have an example of this later on as well. The segmenting principle states that humans learn best when information is presented in segments rather than one long continuous stream. Mayer found that when learners can control the pace of their learning, they perform better on recall tests. So we talked a little bit about that in the small chunks in presenting. So if you present 3 to 5 ideas within 15 minutes, that is much easier to comprehend and recall later than an hour presentation, hour and a half like we're doing right now. This would be much better if we broke this up and did it in 15-minute chunks, but we don't have that kind of time to do that. The pre-training principle is humans learn more efficiently if they already know some of the basics. So in the educational field, we often refer to this technique as scaffolding. So building off of what people may already know to create new ideas about topics. And instead of having the learners begin the course right away, create an introductory guide. So that's what they've done with this example is here's the basic definitions, terms, and concepts that you need to know before you get into this. So giving them that background. At the College of Business, a lot of advanced courses, we will put a module that might be a refresher, especially if it's an analytics class that requires some mathematical comprehension that has to do with basic analytics, so they can go back and refresh and look at these formulas before they jump in headfirst into class. The modality principle states that humans learn best from visuals and spoken words than from visuals and printed words. So this doesn't mean that you should never use text on the screen. It simply means that if there are visuals and too much text, learners will be overwhelmed. So you can see the example there. This is limited text on the left. It's just a graphic and probably, hopefully, an audio voiceover. Over there on the right, we've got 2 paragraphs of information that if there wasn't a presenter, we could all read that fairly quickly and move on. But if there was, we might want to just highlight a few things with the graphic, and the learners are going to be able to digest that a lot better. The multimedia principle says that humans learn best from words and pictures than just words alone. So this principle is sort of foundational to all Mayer's principles, that images and words are more effective than just words alone. So something to help with that comprehension, something visual. The personalization principle states that humans learn best from a more informal conversational voice than an overly formal voice. So having a more casual voice actually improves the learning experience. The voice principle. This is very true. We've learned this with a graduate course before. States that humans learn best from a human voice than a computer voice. So there are all kinds of softwares out there, and even PowerPoint allows for computer-generated robotic voices now using scripts that are built into presentations. Learners don't necessarily relate to that. It's going to be much better if you use your own voice, use it in that casual manner like you would during a presentation, and build your presentations that way. And even though Siri and Alexa are getting pretty close, there's not a substitution for the human voice. The image principle. So humans do not necessarily learn better from a talking head video. Talking head videos are incredibly common in e-learning courses and MOOCs. The research on this one also still is really early in its phases, so you can take this principle with a grain of salt. The thinking here is that if there is important information to be learned, relevant visuals on the screen will be more effective than showing a talking head of an instructor. So we're not saying don't do that. We're not saying don't use video at all. I think it's especially important to utilize video in an asynchronous environment in the class, just to let the people know who you are, what you look like, that you're an actual person. And then turn the camera off and do the voiceover until you want to pop back in. All right, so the next piece that we're going to go through are examples with PowerPoint. Oh, I've got a typo here. First I did voiceover PowerPoint slide. Then we're going to do a video with the key points. I'm using the same script, and I've recorded a video while posting the 3 essential key points on the screen. And then the last slide we're going to look at is an animation with that same voiceover from the first slide. And because I'm using a Mac through Teams, I have to share the audio through my laptop mic, so it's not going to be the cleanest. And I just want everybody to watch this. These are 3 examples I created in PowerPoint. The way I would ultimately share these, and I don't know if you know how to do this, but is once you do voiceover or video inside of PowerPoint, you can save the PowerPoint out as a movie after you're done. So you save it as a movie, MP4, after you're done. And because you have timings and narration in there, it becomes a full MP4 video after you save it out. So I want you to watch some of these examples. The basic definition of visual literacy is the ability to read, write, and create visual images, both static and moving. It is a concept that relates to art and design, but it also has much wider applications. Visual literacy is about language, communication, and interaction. Visual media is a linguistic tool with which we communicate, exchange ideas, and navigate our highly visual digital world. The term was first coined in 1969 by John Debs, who was the founder of the International Visual Literacy Association. All right, that's the first example. That was pretty painful for everyone, I'm sure, because we had a ton of text on the screen, and all I did was read it to you. So that wasn't very fun, engaging. It was none of those things. So let's watch the second example. Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Larry Hess. Today, I'm going to be talking about visual literacy. The basic definition of visual literacy is the ability to read, write, and create visual images, both static and moving. It's a concept that relates to art and design, but it also has a much wider application. Visual literacy is about language, communication, and interaction. Visual media is a linguistic tool with which we communicate, exchange ideas, and navigate our highly visual digital world. This term was first coined in 1969 by John Debs, who was the founder of the International Visual Literacy Association. All right, and now I'm going to go to the third example, which is an animation I found. The basic definition of visual literacy is the ability to read, write, and create visual images, both static and moving. It is a concept that relates to art and design, but it also has much wider applications. Visual literacy is about language, communication, and interaction. Visual media is a linguistic tool with which we communicate, exchange ideas, and navigate our highly visual digital world. All right, I'm going to stop it there. I would like to quickly see any comments there. Out of those 3, what did you think? Did you like one over the other, and why? Any takers?
So we have one person who liked the second one best. They like the middle video simply for the notes on the left and seeing the person. People are wondering about the second example.
Wondering how to
you
create
had
that.
your video in this slide.
Yeah, so all I did there was I'm a Mac user, so I used QuickTime. You can use whatever, like screen capture. You could use Teams even to record the video. But after that's saved out as an MP4, you can go into PowerPoint and just insert and add a video. And visually, let's see here. So visually, I just added that overlay on the left and then added the notes. The video actually spans the entire background of the PowerPoint. So I also, when you add media like audio and video to a PowerPoint, when you click on that, you'll get an option that comes up to play that automatically when the slide is clicked in. And that's usually what I do so that I don't have to control the video or anything. That video just automatically plays. And I think this is a really good option for anyone doing voiceover PowerPoint to add a little bit more to that presentation.
Yeah, and I think you wouldn't have to do it on every slide, but
No.
it could be good on some slides. So we have some more feedback. People like the second one. They thought that third one with the wavy noodles was distracting a bit. The second one people thought was the best. I've popped in a couple links, so how to record a PowerPoint with narration and how to export a PowerPoint as a video. And I think for one of them, you have to toggle between Mac or PC, but both are useful when you're doing this sort of lecture.
Awesome. So quickly, we've got a few more slides left if everyone has time. I think we're still okay, right, Jody?
Yeah, you've got 22 minutes left.
Okay, good. I want to leave some time for questions as well, but some of you are thinking, what about YouTube? Like we've discussed a lot of options for software and applications that work within Blackboard. Yes, absolutely, YouTube is a viable option if it fits your needs. So if you don't mind having your videos up on YouTube, you can share from that environment. So I ask, what about content curation? Have you considered finding great and engaging content for your course rather than creating it from scratch? So there's a ton of videos out there. Just some quick YouTube stats. I mean, these are your students right here within these stats. So YouTube has over 1 billion hours watched daily. It has over 2 billion users. People upload 500 hours of video every minute to YouTube. And then 81% of 15 to 25-year-olds reported using YouTube. So I think it's safe to say that the students that are in your classroom or online are more than likely comfortable with this format. So it's always a good option depending on how it works for your needs. Also want to give a quick pitch to the digital toolbox that was created with OII and OIT. It breaks down the differences of some of the things we've talked about in a side-by-side comparison today of what tools we have, what it offers to online teaching and the different applications. Feel free to take a look at your leisure as you try to determine what's going to work best for your course. So these resources, I only share with my favorite faculty, so you guys are all on that list now. But seriously, the media resources are places to get really good stock photos that that are copyright free. Some of them you just kind of have to share the author's name at the end of the presentation. Some of them don't require that at all. So as you go through these, make sure you pay attention. But they're high resolution images taken by professionals. This is also a place to get icons. So if you want to spruce up your presentation with any kind of icons that relate to your content, that flat icon is a place to go. If you're looking for PowerPoints, maybe you're looking for new templates or just things that you can use, Slide Carnival is a great one. Also, the Articulate community. You may have to sign up for a free account, but this also has templates for creating like interactive slides as well. So you might find some cool things that you're interested in there. Next up is canva.com. I use this daily to create visuals for things. So it's an excellent resource. It used to be free. I'm not sure if it still is. If I know it still has a free component, and I'm not sure exactly what that does, as I pay for it because it's pretty cheap by comparison of other tools that are like this. I've got those links we talked about earlier with TopHat Pro, Panopto support, and also if you want to dive a little more into Mayer's 12 principles, that is included on the slide as well. Here's a little pitch on how to contact us. I know as you go through this, you're getting a lot of different ideas about where your course is going to go, and you might ultimately end to needing some help. So we're here for you. You can always reach out to Jody, to me, to anyone that you've met during these workshops, but we do have things set up for that, and you can contact us by email, and also OIT and OII are doing 30-minute consultations right now as well that you can sign up for. So that is it.